Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you are doing well. I am back with our weekend review. Hopefully you've been enjoying the content here over on Chasing Rank because we've been loving making the content for you guys. Before we get into it, make sure you smash a huge thumbs up and make sure you subscribe because we are growing this community very, very quickly and I'm very, very keen to get into our first game today, which is Liverpool versus Everton. If you haven't been here before, we do look at a lot of positional maps. I've got some extra data on the screen for you guys as well. So if you enjoy the way we go through this data deep dive, make sure you do hit the like button because these videos are probably my favorite to make. I'm going to just do a little bit of a quick run through all the games today because we do have a big live stream happening tonight as well. So if you do want to look at a few more questions in more depth, or ask about our specific teams, make sure you do jump in that live stream on Tuesday night. So, very, very interesting game. This game did finish 2-1, as you can see. I don't think we learned anything super new out of this Everton-Liverpool game. You know, you're looking at some of the points on offer. James Tarkowski, 5 from 5 with DC. I think if you don't own James Tarkowski at $5.5 million, I think he's the best option. Pardon me. But then we've also got Njai getting back-to-back DC as well with an assist. 25 on the bonus points, which I thought he was a little bit stiff to not get bonus. But when you've got Idrissa Gana Gueye with DC and a goal and 10 points as well for Everton, that's very, very impressive. Then you're looking on the Liverpool side again, Gravenberch, goal, assist, DC, and a 15-pointer. That's just such a good performance from him. And then Ekitike gets the goal with a start as well, keeping Isak out of the starting 11. But again, his minutes aren't going to be great. So, interesting from a Liverpool perspective. Mo Salah goes and gets the assist and no bonus. And a lot of people captained him this week who, you know, we'll get to a later game a bit later on. But again, you're probably a little bit disappointed from the Salah perspective with Liverpool scoring 2 goals. But he did return. Even from a heat position, you can kind of see Szoboszlai went in the 10. You can see that, you know, sort of big triangle between Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Bradley and Salah, which is an interesting dynamic in the game because I did think Szoboszlai was quite good. You can see a lot of that play going through McAllister, Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. And then the same thing with Everton. I was actually really impressed on the eye test with Jack Grealish. They really tried to isolate Grealish against Kirkez. And Grealish, I think, was quite unlucky not to get a return. He had a couple good balls into the box as well. He creates that ball before Njai lays it off to Idrissa Gana. So I think, you know, I don't think we really learnt a whole lot. I was pretty, you know, happy with my Everton assets in this game, even though I'm a Liverpool supporter. It would have been nice for a Grealish return. But I take the Tarkowski DC and I think he got a 3-pointer in the end. So you take that and run. Liverpool, again, Ekitike just showing that he's a very quality striker. And it's going to be interesting when Isak is in the side. So let's move on and talk a little bit more about Tottenham and Brighton. This game finished 2-2. Brighton went 2-0 up very early, and then Spurs made their way back. Kudus with a double assist. But the concerning thing that I've seen from a few people is that even with getting 2 assists, he was still quite a ways off getting a bonus point. But that's probably to do with him getting a yellow card as well. So you can see there he got 21 on the BPS, where 28 would have got you 1 point in this game. Yankuba Minte is somebody I'm a huge fan of. He goes and gets 2 bonus in this game and gets 9 points with just a solitary goal. I think he's a fantastic footballer. 7 DC, so he wasn't really close to getting DEFCON because he needs 12. But there's a few things that I like in this graphic, and you can see how high Matoma and Minte are for Brighton. I think they are going to be 2 players that we need to keep an eye on. Minte's sitting at 5.9 million. He's a data machine as well, according to Fantasy Football Hub. So he's somebody I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I would not be going near any of the defenders for Brighton, although Dunk and Van Heck both got DC, as did Veltman. So lots of defending from the Brighton defenders. From a Spurs perspective, though, again, typical 4-3-3 shape. Richarlison, Odegaard, and Kudus. Xavi Simons was on the bench. Pedro Porro, Destiny Udogie, you can see how they were, you know, pretty much making a midfield 5 out of their 2 fullbacks and 3 centre midfielders. But again, I don't think we learned anything new about Spurs. The one thing that I liked from this game was Romero with 18 defensive contributions. Damo and I have spoken about him quite heavily. on the live streams about being somebody who's likely to probably get a bit more DC in that back four. So he is somebody I'd be keeping an eye on with some decent fixtures to come. So again, not too much to talk about in that game. As you know, evident with this game here, 1-1, Burnley Forest. What a frustrating own some of our Forest players have been. Neco Williams, for those people, that 1.2% of effective ownership that had him, you'd be absolutely laughing with a 10-pointer. Very, very nice goal that he scored. And then we've got Anthony with a goal for Burnley. Douglas Luiz is up and firing as well. I think he's at 5 million too, so he could be somebody very, very good, because it's interesting though that his DCs were only at 3, where Elliot Anderson got 15 defensive contributions. So I think if you're going with a midfielder from Forest, it would be Elliot Anderson, but I still wouldn't be going there anyway. You can kind of see on the graph that, they were quite compact, were Forest. But I just think under Ange Postecoglou, we just want to wait and see, and their fixtures do turn quite poorly very, very soon. So I 100% would not be going after any Forest players after this week. And same with Burnley. I think Anthony is, the second highest scoring midfielder. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that up, but he is looking very, very good, and he is playing as that sort of most advanced attacker for Burnley. So if you are desperate for a cheap midfielder, maybe you look at Anthony, but I would not be recommending it. Into West Ham and Crystal Palace. Now, West Ham are in some serious trouble. If you've got West Ham assets, I would be looking to move them on as soon as possible. You can see how open this defence is as well. They've got Kilman and Mavropanos are sitting there, and then there's a huge space. I just think that they're going to struggle massively. Rumours are that Graham Potter is going to get the sack at the start of the international break, so I don't know what that's going to mean for those assets, but again, I just would not be going near West Ham. When it comes to Crystal Palace, though, Tyreek Mitchell scored an absolute screamer. Daniel Munoz is still getting further forward, which is nice, but I think at 5.5 million, I'd rather go after one of these guys that are locking away DC. I think Mark Gahey is a good option, but I think for 4.5 million, I'd be going Chris Richards. He seems a little bit more locked in for DC, and I think over the course of the season, he'll outscore Mark Gahey. Lacroix is a good option, although he only had 6 DC, so it'd be interesting to see why it was going more to Richards and Gahey instead of Lacroix. Maybe it was just that with Callum Wilson up front, maybe there was a bit more threat out wide versus it being through the middle. So that'd be interesting to see. If you do own Daniel Munoz, I don't think he's a must-sell, but I think if you're looking at making other moves and you need to free up money, I think straight Munoz to Chris Richards is a nice way to free up £1 million. So that's what I would be doing if I was in that situation. Leeds and Wolves, again, I don't think we need to spend too long on this individual game as well, because who are we buying from this game, really? Anton Stack, I've been talking about him a lot on the live streams as well, and he is somebody who I'm actually quite keen on at 5 million. Has had a couple games where he's got attacking returns, and then he's had the odd game where he's gone and got DC as well, but he goes and gets a 15-pointer in this game and looked actually really incredible. Took the free kick beautifully too, which is always nice for our assets, but other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot else we're looking at. Ampadu at 15 defensive contributions. Same with Stroik, same with Goodmanson. And I've been hearing a lot of people talking about Rodon, but again, he had 9 DC at 4 million, where Goodmanson got 10 and also has attacking potential. It's just something to consider. I know Rodon's had a few DC games this year already, though. Wolves, I think they're in big trouble of getting relegated. I don't think we're going anywhere near any of their assets anytime soon. So that is our team I would be avoiding like the plague massively. Now, Man United, Chelsea. I almost didn't want to put Chelsea's graph in the game because Pedro Neto, that definitely was not his average position. Same with Estevao. They just weren't on the pitch long enough to really get, proper data. This is just a write-off. You lose your goalkeeper after 4 minutes. You make subs. It makes things interesting. But then Casemiro goes and gets himself sent off too later in the game after getting a goal, and he only walks away with 3 points, which is interesting for a midfielder after scoring. But these are the kind of games where I just don't want to look into it. Chalobah looked good. He ended up getting 8 points with DC and a goal, but also conceding 2 goals. I think this is a write-off for Chelsea. For Man United, again, what I like in this is how high Brian Mbeumo gets on the pitch. And I'm a Bruno Fernandes owner, and I'm probably going to just stay with Bruno. But if I had my time again, there's probably a world where you do look to go with Brian and Mbeumo. Again, I'm more than happy with Bruno Fernandes. I just love the fact that he has so many routes to points. Again, though, this wasn't a DC game for Bruno. Man United were going to have a lot of the ball after that, Sanchez red card. I know Casemiro goes and gets a red as well. But Bruno still got 8 DC in a game that finished with both teams on 10 men. So, he goes and gets a goal. He could easily go get defensive contributions and turn that into a 12-pointer. And I think you'd be absolutely laughing with that. So I don't want to go too heavy on the analysis there because I do understand that there's probably a lot of things in that game that aren't typical. And then Fulham and Brentford. Fulham are a side I am looking a lot at the moment. I think they're starting to really find their feet with this side. Again, there's a lot of similar parts from last year. Josh King is somebody I'm interested in if I was to go with the cheaper midfielder. Again, Muniz is somebody who, as long as he can get the minutes, is going to be really, really strong. But with Jimenez there, I always worry that he's going to get early subs. Iwobi, same sort of thing. They've just signed Kevin. So there's just some, too many options almost up front for Fulham. But Joachim Anderson is my man there at the back with defensive contributions. He went and got 15 once again, and he was absolutely flying for DC in this game. Goes and concedes the 1 goal, which is annoying, but 4 points as a baseline for him is fantastic. He's always good for underlying bonus as well because he just creates so much. You can see all the arrows going into him. It just shows how many passes he makes and what he receives. So he's somebody I'm looking at. Brentford, I'm really not looking at anybody from Brentford at all. I just think they're struggling way too much. So, someone like a Dango Utara was somebody I was looking at, but then he's not started the last 2 games as well. So I don't know what they're doing over there at Brentford. And again, they're a side that I am quite worried about too. I wouldn't be looking too much into Brentford assets. Game number 8 on the weekend. Now, I've just realised that my camera here is way too big. So let's reposition that. Sorry about that, guys. We've got Bournemouth and Newcastle. This is probably the best 0-0 result I could have ever asked for. In my team, I've got Dan Burn and I've got Senesi. Senesi goes and gets 11 DC. Burn gets 15. And I've got Semenyo, who did not return, who did keep a clean sheet, and also got 14 defensive contributions and got a 5-pointer. This single-handedly is what saved my game week, and you'll see it in the live stream tonight. But what I wanted to talk about was this Newcastle system, which is really interesting because they've really looked to go at this 5 at the back lately, which is interesting. I don't think it's something that I would have recommended for Newcastle, but they do have a lot of strong defenders. So you can see Botman, Burn, and Tior was there. There was no Fabian Schär. So they've got the option to do this. But what I like about this system is it really does allow Livramento and Lewis Hall to bomb on and be those attacking wing-backs, almost the way that Crystal Palace use Mitchell and Munoz. But what it probably takes away is more from Alanga's game because you can't really play as a hug the touchline right winger and have Livramento overlapping. And I don't think they really have a inside forward right winger type operator in their team because Alanga did it from the right last year, but he offered that width to Nottingham Forest, where I can see Anthony Gordon being that left winger who cuts inside, but they've got Voltemata, they've got Visser. I'm not sure what they're going to do long term. It could be that they go 3-5-2 and they just go Voltemata and they go with a Gordon up front, or they go with Visser and Gordon. I'm interested to see what Eddie Howe does with this side going forward because they aren't really scoring a whole lot of goals either. So defensively, Newcastle looking very, very strong, but I don't quite know what their attack's going to look like. Bournemouth, they are a huge surprise this year. I think Semenyo and Senesi are just must-haves. You can see how involved Senesi is on the ball. He's doing all the defensive work as well. And Semenyo, probably not as high as I thought he'd be, but he just keeps doing what he does, and I was just grateful that he got those defensive contributions. Now, what was I doing here? This is all over the place. Sunderland Villa, I don't know what's going on with Aston Villa. Ollie Watkins is just missing chances. He's just not looking sharp. Buendia, I don't know how he keeps starting. I was surprised it wasn't Harvey Elliott that came into the side after he scored in the Carabao Cup. Same sort of thing, though, with Villa. I think at some point it's going to click. I'm just going to ride on the Watkins train until game week 7 when they play Burnley and then get off of him in game week 8. Sunderland, I don't think we need to talk too much about, but Matty Cash, what a goal from him. I've seen a lot of people bringing Matty Cash in, and he does look pretty locked in at right back, but he only had the 5 defensive contributions, so he's not going to be somebody that gets DC points for you at all. But again, if he's playing right back and with the license to go forward, then I don't mind it. Same with Digne. And the final game for us to review today, Arsenal, Man City. And God, what was I doing when I was doing this? I couldn't obviously see what I was doing. Interesting game once again. I just think Arsenal just need to start taking these games on. Like, look how defensive that block of, what was that, 5? Calafiori, Rice, Zubimendi, Marino, Timber. Just a midfield 5 as a block with 2 at the back and then 3 up front. I just think Arsenal need to get more aggressive. Like, Trossard just, that needed to be Eze. Maybe a Waneri in the middle there instead of a Mikel Merino, and really just push and give Victor Gyökeres something to play towards. Erling Haaland gets the goal nice and early, and then that was it from a Man City perspective. And very, very interesting game. You can see how deep Man City sat because they scored so early. They just invited the pressure from Arsenal, and Arsenal just wanted to keep the ball. So, am I buying people from Man City? 100% I'm buying people this week. Erling Haaland is in my side already, and I'd be doing everything possible to get him in ahead of Burnley. Doku is actually looking quite solid on this left wing whilst Marmoush is out, because Foden's been playing more in the 10 role whilst Cherky's been out, and then Reinders has played every minute, and it wouldn't surprise me if he potentially misses this week, but I'd be playing him if I have him anyway. But Doku is a cheeky little option to have as a midfielder, but again, you just know what you're getting with Pep. He's going to get potential rotation, which is never fantastic. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a huge thumbs up. I love making these videos for you guys. I love talking through what I see and how I see the game as well. But make sure you smash a huge thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys very, very soon for another video.